I can't take this anymore, David. I'm sorry. Our love, it's not enough to keep me here. Why does a love so profound, so fiercely fought for, sometimes falter in the face of life's undeniable currents? We pour our entire being into a connection, believing it to be an unshakable fortress against all odds, only to find that some battles are not won by will alone. The wisest among us often realize that true strength lies not in clinging to what was, but in understanding the subtle art of letting go, of allowing life to unfold beyond our grasp. Perhaps you've known a love that felt boundless, yet faced an insurmountable wall. But if you've listened this far, please don't scroll away. Because the most crucial part isn't in the tragic ending, but in the profound shift that occurred within David's heart. And you will want to stay to see how someone who lost everything can find a new way to love, not in spite of the pain, but through it. The tale of Sarah and David. Sarah and David were the kind of couple people envied. Their love story was a vibrant tapestry woven with shared dreams, laughter, and an almost telepathic understanding. They met in college, two ambitious souls with a common vision of a future filled with purpose and passion. Their connection was immediate, a magnetic pull that promised a lifetime of companionship. They built their lives together, brick by brick, dream by dream, convinced that their bond was unbreakable, capable of weathering any storm. The storm, however, arrived in a form they never anticipated. A diagnosis. Sarah had a rare, degenerative illness. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic blow, but a slow, insidious erosion of her vitality. The initial shock gave way to a fierce determination. David, a man of unwavering loyalty and boundless love, vowed to fight alongside her. He became her rock, her researcher, her tireless advocate. He spent countless hours poring over medical journals, consulting specialists across the globe, exploring every alternative therapy, every experimental treatment. He emptied their savings, took on extra shifts, and sacrificed his own aspirations, all for the slim hope of a miracle. Sarah, too, fought with incredible courage. She endured grueling treatments, the constant pain, and the gradual loss of her independence. Her once bright eyes often held a flicker of fear, but she always met David's gaze with a smile, a silent promise that she wouldn't give up. Their love, in those early years of the battle, seemed to grow stronger, forged in the crucible of adversity. It was a testament to their bond, a beacon of hope that defied the grim prognosis. But as the years wore on, the disease tightened its grip. The treatments became less effective, the pain more constant, the moments of joy more fleeting. Sarah, once vibrant and full of life, became a shadow of her former self. Her body weakened, her spirit dimmed. David watched, helpless, as the woman he adored slowly slipped away. He saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the silent despair that no amount of love could erase. He continued to fight, driven by a desperate hope, but a gnawing sense of futility began to creep in. He would hold her hand, whisper words of encouragement, but the silence between them grew heavier, filled with unspoken fears and the crushing weight of their shared reality. One night, after a particularly agonizing day, Sarah was racked with a violent coughing fit. David rushed to her side, his heart pounding with a familiar dread. He held her close, feeling the fragility of her bones, the shallow rise and fall of her chest. As the fit subsided, she looked up at him, her eyes brimming with tears, a raw, desperate plea in their depths. Her voice, barely a whisper, broke the silence of the room and shattered David's world. I can't take this anymore, David. I'm sorry. Our love, it's not enough to keep me here. The commentary, a Buddhist or life wisdom view. When we witness such profound suffering, it's natural to question the very nature of love and its limits. David poured every ounce of his being into saving Sarah, yet the outcome remained unchanged. This experience, though heartbreaking, illuminates a fundamental truth taught in ancient wisdom traditions, particularly in Buddhism, the principle of impermanence, anicca. Everything in existence, including our relationships, our bodies, and even our deepest affections, is subject to change, decay, and ultimately, cessation. To cling to the idea that anything is permanent, or that our will can defy the natural flow of existence, is to invite suffering. This leads us to the first noble truth. Life is suffering, dukkha. It's not that life is only suffering, but that suffering is an inherent part of existence, arising from attachment to impermanent things. David's suffering, though born of love, was intensified by his attachment to the outcome, Sarah's recovery, and his resistance to the impermanence of her life. The moment Sarah uttered those words, "Our love, it's not enough to keep me here," she wasn't diminishing their love, but acknowledging the profound truth of impermanence and the limits of human will against the vastness of existence. This isn't a judgment, but an invitation to reflect. When we face the inevitable losses in life, do we resist the current, or do we learn to navigate its flow? How much of our pain comes from the event itself, and how much from our attachment to how we believe things should be? The Noble Eightfold Path. David's journey, after Sarah's passing, became a profound lesson in the Noble Eightfold Path, particularly in cultivating right understanding, samadhi, and right mindfulness, samasati. Right understanding isn't about intellectual assent to doctrines, but a deep, experiential grasp of reality, especially the truth of impermanence and suffering. For David, this meant moving beyond the initial shock and grief to truly comprehend that Sarah's suffering, and ultimately her passing, was a natural part of existence, not a failure of his love or effort. It was the understanding that some things are simply beyond our control, and that clinging to what cannot be held only prolongs pain. To begin this transformation, David started a simple practice. Each morning, he would sit by the window, not to dwell on memories, but to simply observe the world outside, the changing light, the rustling leaves, the passing clouds. This was his practice of right mindfulness, bringing his attention to the present moment, acknowledging the pain without being consumed by it. He wasn't trying to forget Sarah, but to integrate her memory into a larger understanding of life's flow. This small act, repeated daily, became his quiet rebellion against the tyranny of what-ifs and the burden of regret. It was a gentle turning of the mind towards acceptance, a subtle shift from fighting against reality to flowing with it. The way forward. There are wounds that may never fully heal, scars that remain etched on the soul. For David, Sarah's absence was one such wound. Yet, in the quiet moments of his mindful practice, he began to notice something profound. The sharp, agonizing edge of grief began to soften. It wasn't that the pain disappeared, but its nature transformed. It became less a tearing, more a gentle ache, a quiet reminder of a love that was, and still is, deeply cherished. He learned that true healing isn't about erasing the past, but about changing our relationship with it. One afternoon, he found himself looking at an old photograph of Sarah, her smile radiant. Instead of the familiar pang of loss, a wave of profound gratitude washed over him. He didn't try to hold on to the feeling or push it away. He simply let it be. It was a moment of quiet surrender, a realization that even in the face of ultimate loss, there was still beauty, still love, still peace to be found. The story didn't end with a grand resolution, but with a subtle, internal shift, a quiet acceptance that allowed the heart to breathe again, not in spite of the wound, but alongside it. And what about you? Who is the person you haven't said goodbye to, or the loss you haven't fully accepted? Perhaps it's not a person, but a dream, a past self, or an expectation that life didn't fulfill. When did your story of letting go begin? What truth about impermanence has life whispered to you, even if you weren't ready to hear it? Take a moment, close your eyes, and bring to mind one thing you are clinging to, one outcome you are desperately trying to control. It could be a relationship, a career goal, a health outcome. Now, gently, imagine loosening your grip, just a little, not abandoning it, but allowing for the possibility that its path might unfold differently than you envision. Write down what comes to mind when you consider this gentle release. Writing it down is already a beginning. If you wish to continue on this journey, where each video is a mirror to the inner self, please click subscribe to walk together. No rush, only when you truly feel it.